My husband recently admitted something to me that left me completely shaken. He told me, in his own words, that he feels jealous of our 3-year-old son. Not jealous in a casual, joking way. He genuinely feels jealous of him specifically because he's a boy. For years, I had this gnawing suspicion that something was off in the way my husband interacted with our son compared to how he treated our daughters. We have 4 children in total, twin daughters who are 4 years old, our 3-year-old son, and our youngest, another daughter who is just a year old. So yes, the house is full of little ones, and most of the time it's chaotic, noisy, and messy in the way only a house full of toddlers can be. But among all the everyday family chaos, I started noticing these subtle, unsettling differences in how my husband treated our son. It wasn't just me imagining it. He confirmed it himself when he finally admitted that he is jealous of our son, and that he feels he has to keep him on a shorter leash. The moment he said those words, my stomach dropped. It explained so many little things I had noticed over the past couple of years, things that made me uneasy but that I couldn't quite piece together. To give some background, my husband has always been less tolerant of our son than of our daughters. If one of the girls acted up, say, throwing a tantrum or refusing to eat, he might sigh or try to redirect them. With our son, though, it always seemed like his patience evaporated instantly. He'd raise his voice quicker, he'd discipline him more harshly, and he'd act like our son's mistakes were somehow personal. At first, I brushed it off, telling myself that maybe he just didn't know how to handle boys, since his only siblings growing up were sisters. But as time went on, the pattern became harder to ignore. When I show our son affection, my husband sometimes reacts in ways that honestly scare me. For example, if I hug our little boy after he falls or if I comfort him when he's crying, my husband's entire demeanor changes. He stiffens. He glares. Sometimes he even makes little comments under his breath like, "Of course, he runs to you." At first, I thought maybe I was overthinking it, maybe he was just tired or irritable. But this has happened again and again. There was one moment that really stands out to me. One evening, my husband got up from the couch to grab something from the kitchen. Our son immediately toddled over and plopped himself down next to me, happy to snuggle in while I read a book to the twins. When my husband came back, he saw our son sitting where he had been, and he just froze. His eyes narrowed, and he glared at him, at a 3-year-old, for sitting next to his own mother. He didn't say anything out loud, but the look he gave was enough. Our son is a sweet, affectionate little boy. He likes to hold my hand when we go out places, just like his sisters do. But for some reason, when he does it, my husband has a problem with it. He complains that our son is a mama's boy. I try to point out that the girls also cling to me in public, but he brushes that off. In reality, all of our kids usually want my hand when we're out. It's normal for toddlers to want that closeness. But my husband zeroes in on our son every time, as if it bothers him on some deeper level. The part that haunts me the most is how harsh my husband used to be with him. When our son misbehaved, my husband's discipline went beyond being strict. He could be extremely rough, both emotionally and physically. I witnessed moments that crossed the line from discipline into abuse. It wasn't just with our son, either. He was rough with all the children, and with me as well. It got so bad that I eventually had to take the terrifying step of filing for a temporary restraining order to protect myself and the kids. I can't overstate how awful that period was. To realize that the person who was supposed to be my partner, my children's protector, was instead the one they needed protection from, that broke something inside of me. There were nights I cried myself to sleep wondering how I ended up in this situation, and how my children were going to grow up with memories of being yelled at, handled roughly, or worse. For a time, the restraining order created some space, and when it was lifted, he seemed to try harder. He was more gentle with the children, at least outwardly. I noticed him making an effort, but it never erased what had already happened. And even when he appeared to be softer, I could still sense this undercurrent of resentment he carried specifically toward our son. I can't explain the psychology behind it. Maybe he feels threatened by the idea of another male in the household, even if that male is just a toddler. Maybe he doesn't know how to process feelings of jealousy in a healthy way. Maybe he has unresolved trauma from his own childhood. But whatever the reason, the end result is deeply unhealthy for our family. Think about it, a grown man, jealous of a 3-year-old boy simply because that boy wants affection from his mother. It's not normal. It's not okay. And it's terrifying to realize how much damage that mindset could cause as our son grows older. Our son already senses that his dad treats him differently. He's only 3, but kids are perceptive. He notices when his sisters get away with something that he gets punished for. He notices when his dad pulls away from him or looks at him with irritation. And I'm terrified of what that will do to his self-esteem in the long run. No child should feel like, as a mother, I feel stuck between protecting my children and trying to keep my marriage from completely crumbling. I love my kids more than anything, and I refuse to let anyone harm them, even their own father. But at the same time, I keep asking myself, how do I even begin to address this? What do I say to a man who openly admits he is jealous of his toddler son? How do you reason with someone who thinks it's acceptable to keep a child on a shorter leash because of his gender? I've tried talking to him about it calmly. I've pointed out that I show affection to all our children equally. I've told him that it's normal for little ones to be clingy, that all of them want to hold my hand, not just our son. But he insists that our boy is different, that he's too attached to me, and that it's somehow a problem. In my heart, I know that none of this is about our son's behavior. It's about my husband's insecurities. But knowing that doesn't make it easier to deal with. If anything, it makes it scarier, because insecurities don't just vanish. They grow. And if he doesn't confront them, I worry they'll turn into resentment and anger that could one day explode in ways I can't control. I've thought a lot about what the future holds. Our children are so young right now, but they won't stay that way forever. What happens when our son starts playing sports, or going to school, or developing his own personality outside of our home? Will my husband see him as competition then too? Will he resent him even more for being a boy? For bonding with me? For being affectionate? I wish I had answers. I wish I knew what to say to him that would make him see how damaging this is. I've suggested therapy, both individual and couples, but he resists the idea. He doesn't think he needs help. To him, this is just the way things are. But to me, it feels like standing on a fault line, waiting for the inevitable earthquake. So here I am, reaching out, wondering if anyone else has experienced something even remotely like this. Is it normal for a father to feel jealous of his own son? Deep down, I know the answer, no. It's not normal, and it's not healthy. But I also know that if he doesn't change, the people who will suffer most are the ones who least deserve it, our children. Think about it, a grown man, jealous of a 3-year-old boy simply because that boy wants affection from his mother. It's not normal. It's not okay. And it's terrifying to realize how much damage that mindset could cause as our son grows older. Our son already senses that his dad treats him differently. He's only 3, but kids are perceptive. He notices when his sisters get away with something that he gets punished for. He notices when his dad pulls away from him or looks at him with irritation. And I'm terrified of what that will do to his self-esteem in the long run. No child should feel. I don't want my son to grow up believing he has to earn his father's approval by being less affectionate, less close to me, less himself. I don't want my daughters to think it's acceptable for a man to treat them differently based on his moods and insecurities. And I don't want to spend the rest of my life tiptoeing around a man who feels threatened by a toddler. Right now, I'm at a loss. I'm trying to protect my kids while holding together the pieces of this marriage. But one thing I do know is that my children will always come first. If my husband can't face his jealousy and get help, then I will do whatever I need to in order to make sure my son, and all of my kids, grow up in a home where love isn't something they have to compete for.